Continuing with theater, focusing on opera, musical theater, and ballet. Another example of ballet from the early modernism period, 1900 to 1945, from the turn of the century up until World War II, at least the end of World War II. We're going to hear or watch a ballet and hear that's an example of primitivism. It's not a widely popular style, but is what this ballet by Igor Stravinsky is classified as an example of primitivism. Modernist approaches to art, music, and dance were combined by Paris's Ballet Russes under the leadership of impresarios Serge Diaghilev. Do you know what an impresario is? Somebody that generally has money and promotes something that they believe in financially. And Serge Diaghilev was that. He believed in the ballet, which was very popular in France and Russia, and he was responsible for the Paris's Ballet Russes, it's Russian ballets which were appearing in France. Russian composer Igor Stravinsky revitalized rhythm by increasing its complexity, using, for example, polyrhythms and changing meters. Changing meters. And when we say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And his music in this example is many times where it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It's very unusual. A primary music characteristic that he uses in this piece of music, and polyrhythms, when you have more than one rhythm at the same time. Stravinsky's early works, including his ballets The Firebird and Petrushka, which came before The Rite of Spring, are strongly nationalistic. The last, The Rite of Spring, evokes rites of ancient Russia through new instrumental combinations and the percussive use of dissonance, as well as polyrhythmic and polytonal writing. So Tchaikovsky was Russian and Stravinsky was Russian. Pianist and conductor. Apparently he played piano as a performer. These pieces of music he was commissioned to write these pieces of music. You know what that means? It means that he was hired and they say, we want you to write this piece of music. And usually people that hire somebody, they want a specific thing or a certain thing, and they say, we want you to write a story about this or some music like this. And then the composer is glad to have guidelines, as opposed to just total freedom to write whatever you want. World War I, approximately 1915, 1919. He was a refugee in Switzerland. Then he went to France, so he left Russia. A lot of people did. He concertized around the world playing the piano. It's interesting, he lived a long life, 89 years old, when math is right. And he wrote in many different styles. A lot of composers will write in one style, but Stravinsky, his initial compositions were post-impressionism, like The Firebird and Petrushka, really pushing the limits, but basically impressionism or late romanticism, right? Same genre. In his primitivism, he wrote several pieces in this style, you would call it. Controlled classicism, he wrote 12-tone works, and again, many different styles in his own lifetime. He was a great orchestrator. Again, what does an orchestrator do? It decides on what instruments or combination of instruments will play the notes. Often, perhaps most often, the composer will use the piano to compose a piece of music. Some composers don't even use the piano. They just, from their mind, use their skills and just write it down. Mozart, a genius, had it all worked out in his mind, and they said he never wrote used an eraser. He would be playing pool and drinking wine with friends and writing music and just writing it down. He says, it's all up here. I have to just write it down. And it's like, Woofy, it's your turn. And he's okay. And he put the pencil down and come back to it later. Stravinsky wrote a lot of orchestral music, operas, other theater works. He's not known for his operas, but he is certainly known for this piece of music, The Rite of Spring. I've shown this slide before that I have made, and I want to show it one more time about the three seminal compositions in the 20th century. And we already sampled some songs from Perrault Lunaire, which focused on atonality. And we will listen to Debussy's example of Impressionism in another unit. And here we are with the third, not in any order, seminal composition of the 20th century, The Rite of Spring, 1913, example of primitivism. It's all about the rhythm, abandoned regularity. It's really Russian because of the irregularity of the accent of their language. The Rite of Spring, scenes of pagan Russia. It's like if before we had, if we were tribal, let's say, what kind of dances and rituals would be performed. And spring, if you've ever lived up north, is a big deal because the winter, especially in Russia, everything is frozen solid. A lot of ice and snow that just keeps coming and doesn't go away. And when spring does come, it's very powerful because all of this energy is frozen up, is released, and it's water all over, rushing and ice cracking and falling from buildings, causing damage. So it's a very unique experience, spring itself is, if you live in Russia and other cold places. Again, why did this happen? Because he was hired to put it on for the Paris Ballet Russe. And when it was first performed, because this is the third ballet that he wrote for this dance troupe, there were near riots. And I believe that this is one of those things that the rehearsals going on and people are writing about it in the newspaper and buying newspapers because they want to read about this. And the newspaper writer is explaining about the music, and so people are thinking, wow, this is craziness, and other people are excited about it, and some people like, nah, that can't be. And a lot of people go to the concert because of curiosity and maybe because they want to protest. And I think this is what happened, that you go and people start making noise in the audience, and somebody says keep quiet, and then somebody else says this sucks, and then somebody else says, stand up and say that, and we'll see what happens. It gets out of hand. So this is not the first time that riots or near riots occurred at performances of music. When we read about the Schoenberg, we read about a lot of the misbehavior at his concerts for people demonstrating against the music. So this is a collaboration, this ballet, and Serge Diaghilev hired a lot of great people like Vaslav Nijinsky to do the choreography, stage designs by this person here. I think Picasso did some of the artwork for some of Stravinsky's ballets. So the music was shocking and unsettling. Again, this is one of those pieces of music that is performed independent of the dance. Oftentimes, it might be called the Rite of Spring Suite. Very exciting piece of music. And it's even more exciting when you see the dancing at the same time. Here is Igor Stravinsky. Again, Russian, lived in France, Switzerland, came to the United States, became a citizen in the United States. Here are some drawings of the sacrificial dance from the ballet. So this is the kind of little information that might be available if you want to put on the ballet and you research it and say, well, how did it was done originally? And it's like, well, this is about all you get. And it shows the dances and associating with music. And so this is perhaps a guideline that new choreographers would follow liberally. The glorification of the chosen one. Here's a photograph, a scene from a dance in the Rite of Spring, the glorification of the chosen one. The whole piece of music, the whole ballet is close to an hour, give or take. And he starts it, I don't know if that's part of the music we're going to hear, but an example of creative orchestration where the bassoon, which is a low instrument, it plays in a real high range of the instrument. And it's very odd sounding because you don't expect the bassoon to play high. Three main parts: an introduction, a dance of youths and maidens, and the game of abduction. Oftentimes you'll see it in the French, La Sacrée du Printemps, right? The rite of spring. And this rite looks like a sacrifice, and I think that is part of it. Here are our different parts. Part one, part two, more than what I said, right? All these different dances. It is a ballet, and it's about dancing, telling the story. Polyrhythms. What are polyrhythms? Well, we know what rhythm is. We know what poly is. The simultaneous use of several rhythmic meters or patterns common in 20th century music and certain African musics. Changing meter, it tells you what it does. Shifting between meters, sometimes frequently within a single composition or movement, also shifting meter. There's our end signal.